Howdy, guys. Welcome to night 39 of Big Brother All-Stars. Can you believe it's already night 39? This is Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house. Hope y'all had a fantastic Friday evening. Saturday morning, certainly been interesting inside the Big Brother house. Just as a refresher, yesterday was the nomination ceremony. Danny's the HOH. She nominated, for now, as we'll talk about, she nominated David and Kevin. When the feeds came back, they were both very upset. Kevin was upset. David was angry. We'll talk about that. And I do say for now, Saturday, we're going to have, I think, the selection of veto players, the veto competition, and we will see what happens. So, again, David and Kevin are on the block right now, but that's going to change. All right, so backyard. Backyard opens up right after the nomination ceremony, which is kind of strange. There's talk in the house of maybe someone has the power to eliminate the veto competition this week. And it's not that. It turns out, or I think it's just a matter of the veto competition is going to be held in the BB basement where they had the BB basement competition, the safety suites, etc. So since it's not being in the backyard, they have access to the backyard. They're very happy about that. Conversations in the HOH room, Danny and Cody are talking. Danny is saying, Tyler, we had our stuff last week. I'm going back and forth on how to handle Tyler. Cody is saying, I kind of lost my faith in Tyler. I just don't know that I can trust him the way I used to. They're talking about the potential of backdooring Tyler at this point based on what happens to the vetoes. Keep that in mind. All right, in the HOH room a little bit later, Cody has left. Davon is now in the room talking to Danny. Davon is saying, Danny, did you tell Kevin that he's just a pawn? Did you confirm, let him know that? And Danny says, yeah, I told him that I will campaign to keep him. And later, Davon tells Kevin, she says, look, I talked to Danny. I think she's telling the truth. I really do think that you're just a pawn. But she also says, but you've got to win this veto because there are still these three powers out there. We don't know what they are, what they do. Just to be safe, you've got to win this veto and protect yourself. In the have-not room, Davon and David are talking. This is very interesting just about the game of Big Brother. I wanted to point it out. Davon is telling David, say, look, just as a warning to you, we're in the jury phase now. Once you get to the jury phase, people play the game very differently. Remember that if people are smiling at you at this point, it's because they want your vote. And she's right. You got to be careful. Everyone's worried about everyone in the house knowing that they will potentially be voting whether or not to give you $500,000. So David's never been in the jury phase before, so Davon is giving the warning that you got to be a little careful trusting people at this point in time. All right. Real quick, non-game play, but just to let you know, the house has an ant invasion. We have it every year. We had it last couple of weeks of my season last year. Ants all over the shelving near the refrigerator. Davon spends a lot of time putting liquid ant poison out and trying to deal with them. They're everywhere. All right. So in the photo room, Cody and Enzo are talking. They want the nominations to stay the same, just the way they are right now. Well, guys, you don't always get what you want, right? And then the next week, if the noms stay the same, they'd love to target Ian, maybe Christmas. So we're kind of seeing a pecking order for these guys. And now Enzo is telling Cody how much he wants to go to a final two with them. They also talk about that they need to reach out, touch bases with Tyler. Keep in mind, Cody, Enzo, and Tyler are the final three in the triple threat alliance. It's interesting because they're talking about this, and just a little bit earlier, Cody was talking to Danny about how he had lost trust with Tyler, even the idea of backdooring Tyler. So where is Cody's true alliance? Is it with Danny or is it with these guys? Personally, I think it's with these guys, and he's just giving Danny a little lip service. But we'll see how the season plays out. They're also talking about Christmas, saying that she's with everyone, that she has a good relationship with everyone. I think Christmas needs to be careful. She's going to be an early target for these guys as targets start getting knocked off the board and sent to the jury house. After all of this, we have a surprise ceremony. As viewers know what it is, they don't know that the house guest feeds cut. But when we come back, sure enough, David has been pulled off the block because of the secret power. And the new person on the block is, drum roll, Tyler. Tyler has been nominated by Danny to take David's place. Immediately after that, in the HOH room, Tyler and Danny are talking. Danny said, I apologize, Tyler, but with the stuff last week, he gave me some kind of reason, and you don't have to worry about it. You're not going anywhere. We've got the votes to keep you. This means nothing other than the fact that I had to put someone up there. Tyler's not so certain. He's wondering, he said, was I always the renom choice? If one of these had won the veto, would I have gone up anyway? Danny doesn't really answer. She just said, "You're good. You are not going anywhere, Tyler. Just chill out. You'll be fine." Tyler saying, "I'm just glad I get the chance to play in the veto competition, and I'm not just getting backdoored." So he's still a little bit nervous. They do start talking. They're wondering who to put up if and when Tyler wins a veto. Danny thinks maybe Memphis or Christmas would be a great idea. Christmas would be a fantastic idea, Danny, just so I can then see Christmas use her power to block her being put on the block as a renom. And then you have to pick someone else again. Sounds perfect for me. But they also say, Tyler says, "What about Davon?" And Christmas says, "No, no," or Danny says, "No, not Davon. There's too much of a chance that she may go home. We need to have someone that'll vote to save all of them and send Kevin out." So now let's talk about the major scandal of the night. Scandal the right word? I don't know. The major talk of the night. David had the power. He used it, but he's denying it to everyone. He has not fessed up to anyone that it was his power. He's telling everyone that I didn't do it. He's going around asking everyone, saying, "Did you pull me off? Did you pull me off?" Everyone in the house pretty much suspects it's David, but he's not owning up to it. He's saying, "No, I didn't do it. Didn't do it." He's asked some people like Davon. He said, "Did you pull me off?" And Davon saying, "If I had the power, I would have used it last week, David." No, that doesn't even make any sense. So David, no one truly believes him, but he continues to push that it wasn't him. And we'll hear that conversation throughout the night, people questioning it. In the kitchen, Davon, David, and Kevin are talking. David has told Kevin and Davon, "Hey, Christmas really seemed to be acting extra nice to me here lately. He's trying to put some targets out there of who may have saved him. Christmas was really acting nicely to me lately, but also Danny came and talked to me in the have not room right before the surprise ceremony. It's just almost as if she knew what was coming." So he's putting some seeds out there. I'm not sure if anyone's going to buy it, but he's trying. In the bathroom, Memphis, Davon, and Kevin are talking. Memphis is telling them, saying, "Nah, David had the power. 100%. I know he had the power." He started crying even a minute or so before they announced that there was a secret power that was pulling someone off the block. He said David was prepared for it. He knew what was going to happen. I'm not buying it. 100% David had the power. In the love room, Tyler and David are talking. Tyler's saying, yeah, if you had the vote, congratulations, just tell me. And David's not saying a word. But then Tyler says, "Look, do I have your vote? If I stay on the block, do I have your vote to keep me?" David says yes. He's already told Kevin the same thing, that he's going to save Kevin. Tyler responds, says, "Look, if you're lying, if I don't have your vote, I'm not voting for you if it ever came down to final two." So David's got to be careful, but you do what you have to maintain relationships now. You can deal with the rest of that on down the road. Just play your game. All right, Tyler also, now keep this in mind, guys. This is very interesting here. Tyler asked David, said, "Hey, do the rules allow you to still play in the veto if you're picked with this power?" And David said, "Yeah." Well, Tyler just kind of caught David. How does David know what the rules of the power are unless he was the owner of the power? So Tyler's very comfortable that he's kind of discovered David actually did have it. He does tell David as well, says, "Look, if you're playing in this veto against me, I expect you to throw it to me and let me win. My life's on the line here." So he's going to, Tyler's fighting to stay in the game. All right, in the living room, Cody and David are talking. Cody and David just kind of pass each other. Cody says, "Hey, look, David, you asking everyone if they pulled you off, it's making you look kind of sketchy. People are looking at you kind of funny as a result." He's trying to give him a friendly heads up, I truly believe. But David doubles down and says, "It's not me, Cody. It's not me. I did not have the power." Cody just starts laughing as he walks into the backyard. Just, like, come on, guy. So he's kind of treating it like that. In the backyard, Cody, Memphis, Tyler, Christmas, Ian, a lot of different people out there. I'm combining some different conversations throughout the evening. But Ian and Memphis are confirming that on our season, Big Brother 21, David bragged in his intro that he could cry on cue. And they're saying that matches up with what Memphis had said, that he started crying even before it was announced that someone's getting pulled off the block and everything. They just aren't believing David. Everyone's saying that David should just admit it, that it's hurting his game, that he doesn't. Christmas is saying his demeanor was so different from the first time he was put on the block to this time, that he's overplaying himself. He's going to overplay himself right out of the house. Tyler's pointing out that he caught David talking about the rules, asking about the rules, and David confirmed. Memphis and Cody at this time really seem worked up about the fact that David's trying to play him, that he thinks he's playing him. They're saying, look, no one at this point in the game is not going to use the power on themselves and try to save someone else. It just doesn't make any sense. Enzo is saying David should have just owned his move, but instead everyone now, they hate him for lying. That's just not the way to play the game. Later, and now with all that being said, later Cody is laughing about saying, look, no one believes David. At this point, it's just pure comedy watching David try to defend and act like he wasn't behind it. So a little bit later, in the hammock, Ian and Kevin, Ian is saying the same thing. David overplayed. She had just said he won it, and everyone would have congratulated him. But now he can't backtrack. And I tend to agree. If David wanted to stir things up a little bit, he could have implied that someone knew about his power, that there was always a plan to backdoor Tyler once they knew he was going to pull himself off, and that's why he was put on. There's things you could have stirred the pot a little bit, but at this point, just own it, get congratulations for having won, and move on. But he can't really backtrack at this point. It'd be tough to do. In the backyard, Christmas and Memphis are talking. Christmas is saying that David and Ian have been spending a lot of time together, and Memphis actually says, hey, I know David's got the power, but if he didn't, or had the power, but if he didn't, maybe Ian had the power and pulled David off to protect him. The key to this is that David and Ian are huge targets for both Memphis and Christmas. Those two better watch out because these two are going to be coming after them when they get a chance. Tyler comes out just a little bit later, mentions Ian's theory, the theory that Ian may have saved him or anything. Tyler's worried about going home, but Memphis says, yeah, the alliance is going to protect you. You're good, Tyler. So in the love room, Davon and Kevin. Davon is telling Kevin, says, look, Danny, Nick, Nicole, Enzo, Memphis, the two of us, we're all on board to backdoor Tyler. We could make this happen. Maybe. But Kevin is upset. He says, come on, you got to keep me in the loop in this stuff. How come I never hear this stuff until you tell me? So he's a little aggravated at that. In the HOH room, Ian, Tyler, Christmas, Danny, Cody, Tyler, basically everyone except Davon, David, and Memphis are upstairs. Ian is saying that maybe Kevin had the disruptor power, or Ian says, hey, Kevin is saying maybe the disruptor power only had a 1 week time period, so someone had to use it. So they used it on David just to stir things up. No one else is really buying it. They think that's kind of crazy talk. The other conversation, big one up there, Cody and Enzo are talking about Memphis when he called out David, that he slapped David on the back kind of hard, kind of yelled into his ear a little bit, congratulations on using the power, and it was kind of aggressive. It's typical Enzo, it seems like. But they thought it was a little forceful and a little unnecessary the way he called out David at that point. All right, so another conversation, Kevin's talking to David, saying, David, swear to me that you do not have a power. David's saying, swear I do not have a power. Yeah, because he's already used it, right? Kevin mentions that maybe Ian had it. David's saying, well, maybe, but David's suggesting maybe it was someone on the other side trying to target David. He's saying, yeah, look, maybe you go home this week and then they're just going to turn right around and get me next week. This is all part of a big deal, a big plan from the other side. So he's still denying that he's got anything. Kevin kind of is understanding this because Kevin has heard that the other side was already considering a backdoor of Tyler. So with what David's saying, with the idea that he'd heard there was already a possible Tyler backdoor plan, Kevin's starting to think maybe it's possible, but no one else is. Not really. All right, in the hammock, Nicole and Cody are talking. All right, now here you go. Nicole is asking Cody, says, hey, did the diary room talk to you about making fun of Ian? And Cody says, no. And Nicole says, well, they didn't talk to me either, but they talked to Danny. Now, Nicole was very upset yesterday. I'm not entirely convinced that they didn't talk to Nicole, but she says they didn't. Cody says, we're going to have to own up to our behavior at the end of the season. That's just all it is to it. We're just going to have to own up to it. But all of them are aware now that apparently it's at least been a talking point. So hopefully it gets better, right? All right, Nicole's punishment is over. She tears off her cereal sloppy box, jumps in the pool to celebrate. Everyone except Memphis is out there to help her celebrate as well. Quickly, at the pool table, Tyler and Cody are out in the back. Tyler is saying that he and Danny have already agreed to a final six. They kind of quashed their argument from the week before. They'd already planned. They've got to stay tight. It's part of the commission. Cody is saying it might actually help cover up our commission alliance, the fact that Danny put up me. Who's going to think we're in an alliance together because of that? And then finally, in the HOH room, a long conversation. I had to shut it down. It's still going on, but Danny and Cody talking. Long conversation about who to put up, who to pick if house guest choice comes up, being irritated by Kevin and his theories, etc. Quite a big conversation. We'll have to cover it later. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Saturday. I will talk to y'all Sunday morning, SKD 143. Cheers, guys. Bye.